Welcome to iAccess VO with Brian Fischler and Ed Plumacher. Making it happen with VoiceOver accessibility. And now, here's Brian and Ed.
Welcome back to yet another episode of iAccess VO. We're getting through the dog days of summer here. Before you know it, it'll be fall. And great thing about fall to me, I love my 50s weather. I love my Apple updates, and I'm counting down the days until those new operating systems start rolling out. We're probably only about 2 months away. How you doing over there, Ed?
I'm doing pretty good, Brian. Things are going well. The summer, it is hot, but I'm looking forward to fall weather myself. And now things are moving along. I see I had a good friend of ours and a good listener contact me and remind me to make sure that I updated my iPhone to the new 9.3.3, the double dot update. And when I looked into it, I was a little surprised to see how many security fixes there were in there. There were 26 that were listed, and who knows how many were there behind the scenes.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because I've yet to have that update pop up on my phone, which is a little bizarre. But it's something that I definitely need to get done. In fact, maybe when we finish recording this podcast, I'll go in. I'm sure if I go to, what is it, under System Information or whatever there in the iPhone?
Yeah, you just go into General and go into right, there's About, and just below About there's
software update.
Software updates. So just go in there and it'll activate it for you. But yeah, I've heard some underlying tone that there was some kind of security issue going on. And all of a sudden, like last week, we had double dot updates drop for, the iOS. We had a drop for the tvOS. We had the watchOS come out with the double dot update, and I think the Mac may have as well. I'm not sure.
Well, I am a conspiracy theorist, and I did happen to notice that there is a Oliver Stone Snowden film coming out. So do you think this might be an NSA protection update protecting us against them?
I don't know. I saw WikiLeaks do a big drop for the DNC emails too, so who knows what's going on.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm more talented than Hillary Clinton because I manage multiple email accounts.
And multiple devices.
This is true. But no, it's interesting. We figured something we haven't talked about on the show because can you believe it's episode 21? We're now legal.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, and not that we're running out of things to talk about because then we'd just be boring. And one thing we don't ever want to be is boring, but something I don't believe we've ever touched on the show is cloud storage. And got so many choices nowadays, Ed. What are you using these days for your go-to cloud storage choice?
Well, my go-to choices, believe it or not, are Dropbox and Google Drive because, I do live in two ecosystems, the Apple ecosystem and the PC Microsoft world. So those two work for me. I do have extended storage, which I purchased for iCloud. I think I pay for the 50 gigabyte version, but it's not my go-to. I just have my devices back up on there. So Dropbox, I love the interface with the PC and the iOS devices and the Mac. And Google Drive, I'm using more and more as it relates to work because I use my iPad as my go-to device for keeping track of the information that I have to convey to students, and also for keeping my cheat sheets for all my keyboard commands.
Yeah, I started off, I guess, years ago using Dropbox, and my Dropbox kept filling up, because I only have 2 gigs free that you get or something, and
yes,
I did get my mom on Dropbox, and hey, Dropbox, I never, ever got my expanded size Dropbox, so I stopped signing people up for Dropbox. But, being somebody that is exclusively in the Mac Apple environment, I'm an iCloud Drive kind of a guy, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I love me my iCloud Drive. It syncs up everything fantastically. I've got, a lot of my device. I'm saving a lot of my things, documents, articles that I write these days. Mm-hmm. Instead of saving them to my documents, I save them to my iCloud Drive, and there I've got access to it on the iPhone, and it's just great how your work is so accessible from no matter what device you're using these days.
Oh, it's just amazing what is out there. I mean, you and I are both Amazon Prime members, and I think that entitles us to a terabyte of drive space, of cloud space.
Now,
I know
I'm going to stop you right there. One thing I have noticed about Amazon, and I don't know if this is for their information as far as documents and stuff. I did on the Mac try and install their music installer. That way I could access my music on the Echo completely inaccessible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, that's another topic for another day. We should explore that.
Yeah, no. So I don't know. Have you used the Amazon cloud storage on the PC?
I haven't, but I do know some people who have. I mean, this. I can only put so much information in so many places, But I know when you and I both, I think we both worked with a Microsoft tablet, and with that we got a free subscription to Office 365, and with that we got a free terabyte of storage from Microsoft as well. So that was pretty incredible. And then I know for in my family here we use Flickr, and Flickr you get a free terabyte of storage for your photographs. I think we've mentioned that on the show before.
Is Flickr, is that a word we could use on the podcast, or does that make us no longer PG-13?
Well, we can use it on this podcast. We couldn't use it on the Pornhub podcast.
Flickr, not exactly a service that you see being used a lot among us total blinds.
Yes, that's true. But there are a lot of low and partial vision, and I do work with a lot of people now who are in their 50s and early 60s that have macular degeneration, and they love the iPad. And one of the primary purposes they love the iPad so much is it still allows them to see photographs of their family and their grandchildren, and that's a big feature for them. So sometimes saving those photographs in Flickr it helps.
Yeah. I remember when you and I were teaching that class, there was a woman, Brian, can you show me how to see this photo of my grandkid? And that was how we started every week of the 6 weeks class. But at the end of 6 weeks, we had her doing it on her own. So
and that's the purpose. That's why we do it, Brian. I know it's a volunteer service that we do, and the Andrew Haskell Library provides the venue for us to be able to do that in for people, and I like it. I like when they come in and they don't really know much, and they've got their devices, and a lot of them, they've been collecting dust for 4 or 5 months. They hear about the course we run, and they come in, and at the end of the time, just the thank yous and the smiles that you see, it makes it all worthwhile.
But I'd rather hear this. Brian, can you help me see this picture of Sandra Bullock? Much rather hear that instead of no. It's great, It's great to be able to give somebody that kind of access and get them going on their own and help them spread their wings. But no, it's great. So now, one of the things we touched on last episode, but we didn't go into how to do it, was talk about setting up a VIP. Now, we have mentioned that I am not a VIP to you, but you are a VIP to me. And we don't want to confuse you with favorites. On the iPhone, you have favorites, which you can put somebody in, and that makes their phone number easily accessible under the favorites tab, as well as if you have Do Not Disturb on. For example, if Ed was to call my iPhone right now while I have Do Not Disturb on, it would come straight through. But Ed, why don't you go into a little bit about how to set up a VIP?
Sure, and I'll give you a little headline here, Brian. You are now a VIP.
A visually impaired person?
No, you're on my VIP list, my friend.
Okay.
Because in order to do the show, I had to go in there and make sure I knew how to do it again because I had forgotten. So, so basically to set the VIP up on an iOS device, you have to have an email come in from that person. You go in there and you focus on or touch their email, their name and email address. Double tap on that. It brings up like a contact card. And if you flick to the right several times, you will hear add to VIP. And if you double tap on that, it will add that email to the VIP, and all the previous emails will go into VIP as well as all future emails. So you now come into my VIP list there, my friend. You're not in my favorites on the phone yet, though, because you like to call me too late at night.
Yeah. Well, there was that text at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, which I got at 6:30, which is fine. That's when my phone goes back on.
Yeah. So I don't have to worry about you texting me at 3:30 in the morning, except I'd be awake, so it wouldn't matter. But no, you can also, it's actually even easier to add somebody as a VIP on the Mac. When you're using mail, just go into the heading of the email. Now, they keep changing this. I think right now it's to the left. If you VO left, it says mark VIP. You VO spacebar on that, and then for some reason you hear it say red. It's not saying READ, it's RED, and that's what that's doing. It's meaning that they are a VIP. So, it's just a quick way for people that if you want to make use of your VIP mailbox for those important emails, whether they're work or family related, it's a great way to do that. Now, there's also something that you can do. Say you get an email that's an important topic to you, but you don't want to really add the individual to your VIPs. You can notify me, which is something I've yet to make use of. Have you ever made use of the notify me?
No, I haven't. In fact, when you brought it up just before the show, I was sitting there going, well, I'm going to let you handle this one.
We're not going to walk you through the exact steps because we just played around with it, but it looked like there was a more button on an email. And if it's an important topic, I did notice you had one finger double tap on that more topic. And you could just click notify me was one of the options. On the Mac, I believe they have it as well. If you were to do a VO Shift M, I think on a message, you could then select notify me. Somebody can correct me if I am wrong about that. Do let us know at iaccessvo@gmail.com or tweet us in at iaccessvo and say, Brian, you're wrong about this, or email us the list of steps, and we'll make sure to get it out to anybody should they have any questions about.
Yeah, and I'm curious too. I think I'll delve into this later this week before the next show just to see exactly what I can get notified about. Is it from the individual sender, or is it subject related? If it's subject related, I think that's awesome.
I believe it is subject related. It's to notify you of that entire thread. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm
good.
Sure about that. And, sometimes there's an important email that you're waiting a response to. So that's when it's great to use Notify Me. But, we're headed into election season here, and we got a lot of news coming out these days, Ed. So we thought it might be a good time for us to revisit some of the latest news apps we're using. And, Apple Native News, I've started to use it a lot more. I mean, it really does a great job. Once you go in and select your news sources of pulling up articles that are of interest to you, it's completely accessible. You can easily retweet or email messages. You can post them to Facebook, read them, save them for later. Have you been playing around with the Native News app?
A little bit, not so much. I just don't have the time to have all these different alerts coming through. It's it's there. I have worked with it. I do get some news alerts from it, but I just don't sign up for all these different news applications.
Hold on, you're currently not getting any alerts from Native News because as of right now, they don't have notifications. But as of the operating system OS 10. That's something they're adding. They're like, geez, every other news app has push notifications, so maybe Apple News should. But, so you're not using Apple News, but what about other news apps? Say there's, we've had a lot of horrific news stories going on in the country.
I know. I actually, my favorite go-to is NFB Newsline because I subscribe to like the New York Times and to USA Today and various newspapers, and I can get my stories there. Based on category, based on topic and stuff like that, and that works well for me.
Yeah, no, NFB Newsline is a great source. We definitely got to compliment them. It's fully accessible, obviously, coming from the NFB. Problem for me is newspapers are too old, man. That's like a day late, man. I need now. I need satisfaction, gratification now. And I used to love the USA Today app, but let's just say I had a 4-letter word tirade after 8 months. USA Today, that's at USA Today. App is completely inaccessible to the blind. They've had at least 12 major updates to the app. They have not fixed accessibility. USA Today, you are dead to me. You are no longer on my iPhone, and I have a new free space on my news screen. But
wow! Do you have the USA Today app sleeping with the fishes?
Yes, he did. It's I took the cannolis. I left USA Today off the iPhone.
There you go.
But, an app that I do love, CNN. They keep playing around with accessibility. Tweet us in. Let us know how you're doing with the CNN app. But what I've noticed, the CNN app has shied away. You know, it used to be more articles. Now it seems like it's a lot of videos, so you got to tap around until you get the video playing. So I'm not a huge fan of it as I used to be. I do like CNN. You know, I love firing it up because you get to hear James Earl Jones. This is CNN. That's a setting you have to turn on, but it's, you know, it's very nice to hear. But, you know, what I have noticed is, and this depends on your location, some of the best news apps to use are your local cable news affiliates, NBC4NY, Fox NY for me here in New York. WPIX Pix 11 is a fantastic app. And so check out, you know, believe it or not, a lot of people don't think of that. You know, depending where you are, go ahead and search for your local news channel, and you'll be surprised. A lot of them are very accessible, and it's a great way to get some breaking news. A lot of them have push notifications, and Reuters is another one where if you just want articles, Reuters, from what I've last seen, is fully accessible as well.
Well, I know my actual go-to if something is really wrong is I have News Radio 88 CBS on my iPhone, and if I'm on a train that's stopped or stuck or something's going on, I'll just double tap the radio.com, and that's set as my default station to come on. And, you know, they're usually giving traffic and weather reports at least every 10 minutes. And if there's a major train issue or a traffic issue, I'll hear about it.
Yeah, and if people think the New York City subways are bad, try having to ride the Long Island Railroad every day, because they're awful.
God. Took me 2 hours to get home the other night. I had to stand the whole way home. By the time I got home, my legs, my knees, my feet were killing me.
Yeah, and Ed is no spring chicken, so the fact that nobody's offering the blind older, I'm not saying older man a seat is just absolutely pathetic, you know. But, you know, one more news app that I want to mention is NY Now. It's a fantastic app. They do have a non-local version of that app. I think it's Now News or something. You know, I'm not sure on the exact name. I ended up removing it from my phone because I kept getting the same notifications from both apps, you know, right after each other. I'm like, yeah, I could probably get rid of one of those. But NY Now is another fantastic app. And the great thing about most of these apps outside of the USA Today is most of these apps are completely accessible.
Yeah, and you know what? Don't underestimate social media. You'd be surprised how many people hear about news events through social media. And I know that you and I were speaking last week, and I had asked you if you'd heard about the situation in Baton Rouge, and you had no clue, which surprised me because you do have all these news apps and everything. And because I had just had something come across my my iPhone as a notification from somebody who had posted something, a friend of mine, and that's how I heard about that. And I heard about the incident in Germany the same way.
Well, it wasn't that I was clueless. Let's just clarify that it was a pretty late night out, so I hadn't really been paying attention to the notifications coming through that morning. You know, one other app I did want to mention that has not been updated in ages, but still seems to work because I did check it out. I think it's a paid app. They might not even sell it anymore, but have you ever used Hourly News?
No. I've heard you mention that a while back, but I haven't heard you mention that in a long time.
I don't use it as much anymore, but it's great if you like to get, like, if CNN, Fox News, and it'll give you the last hour of, you know, 10-minute briefing, and it's a great app. You could go in and fire it up. BBC, I think, is one of your choices. So if you don't like reading your news, but you like to get a quick radio update, it's a great app to go ahead and use. I should have checked the App Store to make sure they still do sell it. It was maybe $2-3 or something, but it's still a great app. I use it from time to time and everything.
Oh, awesome. And, you know, the other thing, I haven't had one in a while, but sometimes I get these emergency weather alerts from notifications from my iPhone directly.
Yeah, no, and, you know, it's those are great. I get them all the time because I get them from Weather Radio, and they scare the bejesus out of me because they're loud, you know, and then you go and look, and these flash flood warnings, I wish they'd stop telling me because I'm not in a flash flood area, but we seem to get a lot of flash flood warnings here in New York, and, you know, until the one day when I get wiped away, you know I'm dying now from a flash flood.
I think you'll float. Don't worry.
You know, and one of the other things, float. What are you talking about? Dogs X swimmer, you know. So one of the things that we did want to mention as well about news apps is should you have a go-to newspaper that one might not be an NFB Newsline, two, you might not be an NFB Newsline subscriber. what I've noticed a lot of people like to do nowadays is save that newspaper to their home screen as if it's an app. And, it's great because all you have to do is double tap on that app, and every day it updates as soon as the web page comes up. And it's kind of like you're receiving your daily newspaper.
That's correct. So if you open it up in Safari, you can just go down to the share button and save to home page, and you can rename it if you want, and just go up and add, and it's there. And it's you just double tap on that icon every day, and you have quick access. I do that with websites a lot.
Ed, I've been spoiled because I'm really enjoying this computer that I got new recently, and I've been hearing about this program for deaf blind people that's pretty fantastic. Something called iCan Connect.
Yes, and it's run by actually a friend of both of ours who's been out there for a while, and he helps people here in New York State. But the best part about it is it's a national program. So why don't we bring our good friend Scott on and let him tell us about it?
Let's go. Now we'd like to welcome in a guest whose goal in life it is to be on every single podcast out there that has something to do with technology for the blind. Mr. Scott Davert, how you doing today, Scott?
Hey, Brian. I am doing good, although I haven't been on every podcast that has something to do with technology and the blind.
Well, he did say
maybe
it was a
I
goal.
have. No, I'm kidding.
He did say it was a goal, Scott. It's a goal.
Oh, I'm failing at my goal, but now I'm working a little more toward it.
You're one podcast closer now, though, to your goal. So that's quite an accomplishment. No. Most of our listeners should be familiar with Scott. He's an excellent resource of information, and we got him here today because we want him to talk to us about a program that is near and dear to him, a program that he works with, I guess, every day, hopefully not on the weekends, though. Scott, tell us a little bit about the iCan Connect program.
Okay, well, iCan Connect is a national program. It's part of the Communications and Video Accessibility Act of 2010. Part of that was legislation that brought in money for people who have a combined vision and hearing loss, more commonly defined as deaf-blind, to receive telecommunications equipment free of charge. And the reason that was done was so that they could have equal access to a lot of the technology that sighted and hearing people have, because the cost is so much higher for things like, say, for example, a Braille display. You could put a small down payment on a house for some of those things.
Very true.
That was the reason why it was created, and there are a couple of caveats to it. The big one, of course, being the income requirement. If you make over a certain amount, you will not qualify, but it's for like a single household, it's like $49,000 a year. So it serves a lot of the population. I think it has really connected a lot of people in ways that they had never thought possible. And from my perspective, just going around New York, because that's the state I run the New York program, just seeing people who, before I came in, weren't doing email, sending me emails. It's a very, very positive thing. It's something that I'm really happy to see, people that are finally getting connected to the world around them.
So are you telling us that there's 49 other people out there like you?
49?
Yeah. In other states doing the same exact thing that you're doing with iCan Connect.
I gotcha. No, there's actually, I think, 52 other programs, because you've got one for the Virgin Islands and you've got one for Puerto Rico. But no, not all of the states have somebody that's their dedicated job. Because New York State, we have such a high population, especially, New York City and Long Island, and then, of course, the rest of the state. That's a full-time job to coordinate the program. I do all the work with our contract instructors. I do all the coordination with interpreting. I do a lot of the training. I do all the assessments and things like that. So it's a big job. But a place like Rhode Island, not a whole lot of people there. In fact, the same guy that runs Massachusetts runs Rhode Island. So.
Okay, so it's a dual purpose program there for one guy. I got to tell you, though, it is a great program, and I have actually referred some of my clients to this because, I do a lot of work with that's sponsored by the New York State Commission for the Blind, and they do sponsor people for equipment, but that sponsorship is limited to people who are goal-oriented and going back to work, and you really only get equipment if you're in an education program or if you're actually on a job site. So I know I've referred some people to you, and surprisingly enough, I think that caught me off guard is when you guys actually supply iPhones for some of the people that go to you.
Yeah, we do. Well, let me break it down a little and kind of just tell you a little bit about like what are some of the different things that we cover. You can, of course, go to icanconnect.org, and there's a lot of information up there about the program, frequently asked questions, all that good stuff.
And that's the letter I. That's not EYE, correct?
That's correct. Not EYE, but the letter I.
Right.
Good clarification. So we cover everything from, say an iPhone or an Android phone or a tablet to laptop computers, whether they be Windows or Mac. I know this is iAccess-VO and not iAccess-JFW, so I won't talk about that too much. We also, in some cases, will do note takers, things like Braille Sense, the Braille Sense, or even in limited cases, the Braille Note Touch, which is a new product, and they're still trying to sort out all their initial orders, I think. I just got mine for the program on Friday, so it's a brand new device to me. We also will offer screen magnification programs if that's something that the individual needs, Zoom Text, either for Windows or for Mac. Magic is also something that we have done in limited situations. It really just depends on the context. Basically, as long as the person is financially eligible and they have documentation that says they have a combined vision and hearing loss, whatever we can get to support them in their telecommunications needs, we will do to a certain extent. The differences in the program are from state to state in the area of what exactly will be covered and how many, well, I shouldn't say what exactly will be covered, but how many pieces of equipment you can get. Here in New York, for example, we allow for people to get one mobile solution and one home solution. So as an example, you may want or you may benefit most from an iPhone with a Braille Edge 40, for example. By the way, I'm not endorsing any of these companies. I'm just giving examples.
Sure.
Yes.
Or you might benefit from an iPhone with a Focus 14, whatever it may be, and that's what you use for your mobile solution. Now, for home, obviously you probably want to be able to read emails and do things that are not so much on the go, but that require a lot more in terms of reading and writing. You're probably going to want a bigger display, and you probably want something that's a little more permanent, maybe a little more powerful. So you may want a laptop or a MacBook with a Focus 40 or a Brilliant BI. Those aren't very popular anymore, but it's another option that's out there. So that's what we do in New York, and how that's done in terms of how much technology exactly they'll cover.
And I know you cover the entire state, because I've seen you. I actually met you in person up in Albany when we were up at a conference, and I think you were heading up to Rochester right after that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm all over the place. I like it. I like traveling. Before I was in this program, I did a little work with Perkins, who run a lot of the programs that don't have a state agency that is certified to do so. I did a bit of work up in Montana and some other places. So,
well, this is a very timely interview for me because I am going to Guns N' Roses tonight, and I'm just blind. And one of my biggest fears, as somebody who's blind, would be losing my hearing. Now, if that should happen from the Guns N' Roses concert, I know who my next call is to. It's to the I Can Connect program, because that's fantastic, the amount of equipment that you're getting for people. So at least should something happen with my hearing at a heavy metal concert, I know I could always reach out to the I Can Connect program.
Yeah, feel free to jam out and, give us a call if something happens, That's why we're here, to really support.
I've been planning ahead.
Rock on, man.
Exactly. So.
The thing is that technology is, as we all know, has expanded by leaps and bounds in the last even 5 years, I would say. And so that has really made a huge difference for some people who would have had nothing before. If you didn't have any hearing and you didn't have any vision, the best you could do 10 years ago would be to get on a desktop computer or maybe mobile speak that had Braille support and do some text messaging. Now you have all these other great things that are available that weren't available then. So the program, from my perspective, and I suppose I'm a bit biased, but from my perspective, has really opened the world to a lot of people. I mean, that's not to say it's perfect and we get you the equipment and everything runs smoothly all the time. It's technology. It has its quirks, but we've definitely...
No. Ed and I, obviously are just both blind, and when we heard about the program, we were both absolutely blown away by the program and everything they're doing to bring the world, I guess, to people that are deaf-blind, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it's made a huge difference, and then kind of going back a little bit, you guys were talking about the Commission for the Blind, and I know this has been somewhat of a thing in other states as well as here in New York. The question is, well, what kind of training can I get from the program? Because we do offer the equipment, but we also offer training. Here in New York, our training, the amount of training we offer is different than, say, what they would have in Washington State or Montana. So I don't really want to speak in terms of, because of the differences in all the different states, what hours are offered and what aren't. But I will say that we do also offer, of course, we'll come out and set it up, and we'll go to the person's home and do it. And then we offer training on the telecommunications aspects of that technology. Now, we acknowledge, of course, that if you get a Braille Sense or if you get a laptop with Zoom Text, there's a lot of other stuff you can do with that laptop and Zoom Text or with the note taker that doesn't have to do with telecommunications. You can feel free to use it for that, whether maybe you're in school or whatever the case may be, but we can't train you on that. And I know that depending on the state, there's other resources that can provide that other specific training that we're not allowed to do.
No, but there is basic functionality that you have to show somebody how to use Zoom Text in order to use it for that telecommunication purposes for email. So, if they learn that, they should be able to venture out if they have any kind of technical aptitude and be able to use that for other resources.
Absolutely.
Or check other resources. Yes.
And that's great. Service, I've been critical of the Commission for the Blind, but it really is fantastic. The Commission for the Blind, as well as the ICANN Connect program, that if you do get a new piece of technology and you do need the training for that technology, they are offering that training. Where if you're a sighted person, you go into a store and buy a computer, you're on your own. You've got to go figure out, where to get the training and everything. And the training in those cases are coming out of your own pocket. So these two organizations should be commended on providing training for people that do need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that is something that sometimes gets taken for granted. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, Apple tried it. They eventually took it away. But remember, they had one-on-one classes for a while that you could set up. But when was it, September or October last year, they decided not to do that anymore?
Yeah, they did away with it. But even when they did have it, though, it's not the environment for it. I mean, that's a retail floor. And I don't know if you've been in an Apple store. I don't care. Every store I've ever been into, the noise level is so high that I couldn't hear someone trying to explain to me when I'm buying something, let alone they're going to try and teach me something.
Well, Ed, maybe you should go spend some more time in there, and you'll lose some more hearing, and then we'll sign you up. What do you think?
My hearing losses, I think, is due to advancement in age, my friend.
Yeah, well, that interestingly enough, talking about Apple, I know. Scott, like Ed and I are big fans of Apple. Scott, without going, I guess, too harshly or into it, what were your thoughts on the NFB's latest resolution against Apple?
Oh boy.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, here's the thing. and this is going to go off the topic of Apple, but it's related because it is an Apple resolution. Yes, there are bugs in Apple software, as there are bugs in every other operating system and every other any other thing you can really think of. Any kind of technology is going to have bugs. But what I will say for Apple is that they have actively worked not only with what they have internally, but also with people who are blind and visually impaired and people who are deafblind. I myself do a lot of beta testing for them. Do they always take my feedback and put it at high priority? No. But what we have to remember is, first of all, that we're a small part of the population. And I get it. We really need to be able to access our devices, and something that might be insignificant to a sighted person might be a real challenge for somebody who is blind or deaf, or who has, maybe switch control as a way that they access their device. So I understand that. However, we have a lot more pressing problems. I'll use Braille as the example because that's how I primarily access all of my stuff. Braille on Android is not good. There, how's that? We'll use that. I don't want to use any colorful words, but it's really bad. There's a lot of inconsistencies across Braille displays in terms of what commands are supported, what commands aren't, what functions are available on each display. It really varies greatly, and some of the Google apps, like Gmail, you can't read your email with the Braille display. It goes blank. You can read the menus, but you can't actually read your email messages.
That's awful.
And Microsoft, well, they don't have anything. You can install a screen reader, and you can... NVDA is there, but the Braille support has a long ways to go. Narrator doesn't support it at all. And... of course, you could get JAWS, but, not everybody has the money for that. Maybe you don't even qualify for a program or the ability to get JAWS. So we have a lot bigger issues on the table. Then you want to look at education. The Kindle line of products, some of them support Brailleback and Braille displays. The problem is that the content is not all equally supported. So say, for example, you buy one ebook through there and you load it on your device, it might read fine. You buy another one, it doesn't work at all. So it's I agree with them in the sense that, yes, Apple needs to continue to work with people who are blind just as much as they need to work with everybody. But we have a lot more pressing issues, I think.
I agree. And that was my major issue with the resolution is it shouldn't have been just directed towards Apple. It sounds, Ed, like a better resolution would have been to go after all the technologies and their failure in supporting Braille. That would have been a much more useful resolution, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I got to tell you, Scott, my opinion of Braille grows exponentially the more that I'm around it, the more I'm dealing with it. I'm actually starting to learn it because it'll make my ability to work more productively. Definitely will work to make me more productive. So, things that I have to do. And it's something that I think people like myself and like Brian who lose our vision later in life, we don't consider it as a viable option in the beginning because of all the technology. But, when you're working in an integrated work environment, we still have to deal with papers and files. And without the ability to read Braille labels, it's very difficult. I don't have the time to be pulling documents and file folders out and scanning them all the time to figure out what is this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's a bigger challenge to learn Braille later in life. I would be the first to tell you that. I used to teach Braille back before I worked with this program. I worked in the adaptive technology department and also in their communications learning center at Helen Keller, and they, we had a lot of struggles. It wasn't that people didn't want to try. It was that, once you got them to see the value, some people couldn't physically read it. I mean, if you have diabetic neuropathy, for example, you pretty much need jumbo Braille, if that will even work for you.
Right.
But even if you can just learn A through Z and have labels made, that's going to improve your life, as you said, a lot. You can put labels on, documents that you might need, maybe other things around the house. Maybe you can even determine through technology, oh, okay, this is what it is. But you don't want to have to take a picture of it every time. So you figure out what it is, and then you slap a label on it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, so what I did was my introduction to Braille was learning A to J so that I could read the numbers on elevators in office buildings in New York City, with the... getting on the elevator with nobody around, you have to be able to figure out what floor you're going to.
And the important thing to always do first is make sure the elevator's there, so you don't fall down the empty elevator shaft, right?
Oh, God. Don't even go there, Brian. That's my biggest fear. The first thing I do when that door opens is that cane always taps down and makes sure that there's a floor before I step through that doorway.
Yeah, my biggest fear is the Loch Ness Monster, but number 2 might be elevator shafts. But now,
I actually had that happen to me one time when I was in a high-rise in Midtown.
The Loch Ness Monster?
What's that?
The Loch Ness Monster?
No, not that one. Although maybe that was what stopped the elevator. I was going from, the 34th floor down to the 10th floor. So I got on the elevator, I hit the button, I went, down to what I thought was the 10th floor. The elevator door opened, I stuck my cane out, nothing.
Wow.
No
That's
floor.
Kind of bright.
And I hit the button again, and it closed, and it did go down to the floor. But, if I hadn't been using my cane, well, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Damn.
Now, Scott, as somebody who uses multiple devices, what advice might you have for somebody that's deaf-blind who's just starting out with technology? Is there a go-to device that might be best for them, a PC, Mac, iPhone? What would you suggest to somebody that's maybe just stepping into the technology game for the first time?
I think it really depends on the user case. I mean, you have people who are born blind, who don't have any vision, so obviously they're not going to access their screen at all. Then you have people who are low vision, who may be also hard of hearing. The user case there really be totally different. For example, maybe an iPhone 6s Plus might be a really good phone for somebody who is hard of hearing, who is blind, believe it or not. And the reason for that is it has a bigger speaker, which means you get a little bit more sound out of it, and also that you have the louder sound without the distortion so much. It still distorts on the highest volume level, but that highest volume level is higher than what you're going to get out of a 6S. So I wouldn't discount necessarily a bigger phone if you are fully blind, if you need that extra volume. As far as, say, somebody who is low vision and hard of hearing, I guess it really, again, it's so dependent upon what they already know or what they don't know. Like if they have no introduction whatsoever to access technology, then you can kind of look at what would work best for them. In fact, that's one of the things that my program does. Prior to recommending equipment for somebody, I meet with them, usually at their home, but some people would rather meet in another place, and that's fine. But I bring all the technology out there. Well, I don't bring a 27-inch monitor with me, but, a couple of laptops, tablets, and phones, and we go through, you have this feature that works on Zoom that's built into the Mac, and then here's what Windows Magnifier is and what it does, and, here are the different options, and, each assessment takes about 2 hours. So, we really have the opportunity to sit down with somebody and figure out what is going to be the best case for them based on, their needs. So I wish I could give you a nice, solid, clear answer, but
I think it's better that you can't. I mean, the key word that I heard there was options, Ed. That's the amazing thing nowadays. There's not, 10 years ago, you really only had one device you could go to. It's very exciting that somebody that's deaf-blind has multiple options these days.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do too. Where I work in an assistive technology center, and we have tons of equipment there. Computers, all the different software, Macs, PCs, the various low vision aids like CCTVs, portables, and desktops, and all the Braille devices and stuff. And our assessments take about 4 to 5 hours, and you really sit there and you customize the recommendation to the individual, and they sit there and.
Ed, I'm going to stop you right there. I just wanted to point out that Scott does your work in half the time.
Oh.
I'm the deafblind guy.
2 hours, man. What's taking you so long?
Ed, I'm not even a New Yorker.
No, but you're not lugging the carload of equipment that I have access to either.
You want to bet?
So you're saying it's a science thing, huh?
No, that's what I do. I have to take it. That's actually an interesting point, though. Not all assessments take 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour. It really depends on, I've had people that will be like, oh, yeah, I want an iPhone 6S and I want a Windows laptop that has JAWS. I've used the iPhone in the past. I've used this other, thing with JAWS in the past, and that's what I want. Sometimes it's 20 minutes. But other times, especially when you work with people who are deafblind, because the communication can be a lot slower depending on, your communication needs and theirs. 3 hours. I've had that happen before. 3.5 hours, I think, was probably one of the longer assessments I was on, but it's happened.
Right. Okay. So, Scott, as somebody who uses Braille, talk to us a little about the state of compatibility for Braille keyboards with most devices these days.
Well, where do you want to start? Because it's different on all of them.
How about PCs?
Well, I guess if you really want to be politically correct, we can do that. No, the PC, it's really, in all situations, actually, this is the case. It depends on the screen reader. JAWS is, I would say at this point, going to have the best Braille support. It's kind of that thing, you get what you pay for. And no, Freedom Scientific did not pay me. Oh, I'm sorry, VFO now, I guess, did not pay me to say that. But in terms of all of the things that are out there and all the different Braille layouts and things, I would say that JAWS is still on the leading edge in terms of Braille support. What NVDA and Window Eyes are lacking, we may actually be lacking a Window Eyes soon. Who knows? It might not even exist, but that's a whole other topic. They do not support contracted Braille input, meaning when you're typing, you can't use contracted Braille. You have to use uncontracted Braille. So you have to write every word out. JAWS supports that. NVDA, although I know NVDA had it in beta at one point. It's not in the latest release. I think they're still working on that. So I think that pretty much covers. Zoom Text Fusion. I haven't tested extensively, but as far as I can tell, there's also no contracted Braille input available on that either. So if you're a Braille user who wants to use contracted Braille, as I am, unfortunately, your only reliable option on Windows at this point is JAWS.
What about VoiceOver for the Mac? Does that work?
Yep. VoiceOver on the Mac is actually pretty good, not only in terms of typing, but also in that you can set up your own keyboard commands. If they're not assigned to some other command already, you can assign a specific Braille display command to a specific VoiceOver function. Now, again, and this is also true for Windows, but it's definitely true on the Mac, the functionality that you have with each device is going to vary slightly. Now, on the Mac, it doesn't vary too much, but when it does vary is, say, for example, you have a Braille Edge, which has 8 function buttons on it, 4 at each side of the spacebar. You have that, and then you have something like the Brilliant that doesn't have specific function buttons, that does have what they call C buttons that are on each side of the Braille display, but they themselves perform different functions, but there's only 6 of them. Braille Edge has 8, and those buttons that are different have different functions, but all your Braille keyboard commands on the Mac are the same. That's not always the case on Windows, but it is on the Mac. So, for example, if you want to interact with something, On a Braille display on a Mac, it's always space with dots 236. And to stop interacting, it's space with 356. And no matter what Braille display you use, that's the universal way of doing it. And, of course, you look at Android, we kind of already touched on that. There is no universal set of keyboard commands at all. We've kind of had, over the last, I would say, 20 years, developed a convention for specific Braille display commands, like space with dots 1, 2, 3. Usually it will take you to the top of the screen. That's the case on Windows. It's the case on Apple. It is not the case on Android. It launches the help menu. I don't know why.
Now, what if you wanted to set up a shortcut using a Braille device to order you pizza and beer? Is that doable on the Mac?
If you wanted to set up a shortcut to do what?
Order you pizza and beer.
I don't think they have that one yet. But if you have an Amazon Echo, you might be able to do that with Alexa.
Very true. Very true. Hopefully, actually, you did not just set her off because I have a headset on. But no. So, well, it sounds like, in some areas it's getting better for Braille, and in other areas they got an awfully long way to go. And I'm sure this is a topic that we'll be revisiting once again, probably by the end of the year.
Well, if you want me to come back on and help me achieve my goal again, maybe I can do this every year, I'd be happy to do that. What I can tell you is that Braille on iOS and Mac OS, they're calling it now, is not perfect. The input is kind of quirky. I wrote up all about that on Apple Viz, about how basically, the translator, you can't, for example, let's say you're editing, and you write the word apples, okay? And you want to go back and fix the word apples because you only wrote apple. So you go back, and if you're in contracted Braille, this is true whether you're on the Mac or you're on iOS, you type the letter S, and you'll get so instead of just a letter S. And the reason for that is because the translator isn't smart enough to figure out in context, this S is connected to a word. S on its own stands for so. So you get apple so.
Is that a thing, apple so?
Not that maybe that's a new division they're going to be working on at Apple, things that'll sew your buttons back on and stuff. I don't know.
Who knows? For all we know, it's something they took a patent out on recently. So Braille's just ahead of the curve.
Well, the thing is that you never know. I was born blind. Had no hearing problem whatsoever. In fact, when I did orientation and mobility, I learned everything through echolocation. Can't do that anymore. I would not have qualified for the program back then, and now because of my income I don't, but disability-wise I definitely qualify for the program. So it may not be a resource that you yourself need right now, but it could be something that, maybe one of your friends has a need for, or later in life you may need. So it's always good to keep that sort of stuff handy.
Now, we got a couple of updates coming out here in a few months. We got Watch Update. I think it's OS 3. We got Mac OS coming out. Any exciting news on the Braille front for the Apple updates coming out in the fall, Scott?
None that I can talk about from the Braille perspective, but one thing that I can talk about that's been, publicly discussed at WWDC, and there's videos online about it, is the new feature for VoiceOver users on the watch called Taptic Time. And Taptic Time will allow you to tell the time through the Taptic engine. So if you want to tell the time, you can tap the screen in a certain way. I can't discuss how it's being done because that would be breaching NDA. And through a series of vibrations, you'll be able to tell what time it is. So no more of those talking watch things. As much as we're going to miss those, now you can you'll be able to check the time on your watch without VoiceOver saying or doing anything. It'll be done discreetly through vibrations. And I think that's going to be a really exciting feature. In fact, that's what made me decide, I think I do want to watch. There's all those other great things on it. As a deaf-blind person, of course, with my hearing aids out, I pretty much hear nothing, which is really awesome, by the way, if you want to get a good night's sleep. Or if you're on a plane and you want to nap, as long as you don't have one of those annoying kids behind you kicking your seat. But I can set an alarm on the watch, and it'll vibrate and wake me up. Now, if I wake up in the middle of the night before watchOS 3, I would have had some other device with me to check the time without putting my hearing aids in, either a braille display or something. But with this Taptic Time feature coming out, I'm not going to have to do that anymore. It's right on my watch. I can always figure out what time it is, and I don't have to do anything other than, oh, good, it's only 4:30. I can sleep another hour. This is awesome.
So, well, Scott, why don't you tell people how they could reach out to you if they wanted to learn more about the iCan Connect program?
Sure. For the iCan Connect program, you can, of course, visit iCanConnect.org. For those of us here in New York, we can do iCanConnect.org/new-York. You can't write YAWK. You have to write YORK. And as a general rule, it's iCanConnect.org/ and then whatever state you have. So, /Ohio, /Pennsylvania, whatever. And then if you have like New York or New Jersey, it's new-Jersey or new-York. Certainly, if you're in New York, or even if you're in another state, if you have questions, I'm happy to pass you on to the correct person. If I'm not the correct person, you can contact me via email. My email address is scott.davert@hknc.org. That's scott.davert@hknc.org.
And that's for the Helen Keller National Center, is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. Well, this was a wealth of information. We're trying to expand beyond just talking about stuff for us blind peeps and everything. So hopefully our deaf blind audience, they learned an awful lot today. Thanks so much, Scott. It's been a real treat having you on.
All right. Well, thank you both for bringing me on. Ed, it was good to meet you up in Albany. Brian, one of these days we're going to have to get together and have a drink or something.
Definitely. It sounds like a plan.
Cool. Awesome, guys.
Thank you guys very much.
That's Scott Davert. He told you all the great places you could reach him. And if you have any questions about the iCan Connect program, go ahead and reach out to him. And I'm sure Scott will go ahead and get you the appropriate information.
You're listening to Brian and Ed on iAccess VO.
Thanks, Scott. That was a ton of great information. And like I said, we'll have to see. Hopefully I'll still have my hearing after the Guns N' Roses concert tonight. But Ed, we got some interesting mail in last minute here before we were going to record. Something from Carla there, didn't we?
Yeah, Carla J. here in New York. She said she has sent us email in the past, and she wanted to know if there's a way to rip CDs for both music and audiobooks and have a way to listen to it on her iOS device without going, I guess, through the iTunes or some kind of native iTunes iPhone app. But I know ripping CDs is something you have done a lot of, so I'll refer to you for that, and then maybe we'll discuss some things that she can do to listen to the material.
Yeah, well, actually, I finished ripping my CD collection to all MP3 files in 1954, so it's been a while since I've done that. So the CDs, I remember when I did that, and then I threw all my CDs. Actually, I think I might have them in a bag somewhere, but I recently ripped all my DVDs to store on an external hard drive. But yeah, ripping CDs is very easy. There's countless programs you could do, but I think more importantly, she wanted to know, like you said, how to play them on the iPhone without using iTunes. And you and I were playing around with this. I went into Downcast, and the way you discussed of ripping movies last week, if you have the files on your computer, you just put them in Dropbox, and sure enough, you could then rip those files or import those files, into Downcast. So that is one way of doing it. Did you play around with this using VLC at all?
Yes, I did. And I think for her books, the only solution I could come up with right now would be to create a folder in Downcast.
Dropbox?
No, in Downcast itself, to download the books into Downcast, because the nice thing about it, there's no way to bookmark them, but if she's listening to a book and she stops, she can resume where she left off. That's the beauty of that. For the music itself, VLC is a great player, especially for music, so she could download the individual songs or albums into VLC, and we've discussed that on previous episodes, where you just basically import the files from Dropbox or from Google Drive. So those are two solutions for her. I did go in there. I was disappointed to see that there really was not an accessible audio book player that she could use to do this. I did find a couple of them. I did download them onto my iPhone. I did play with them, and they were not accessible. And I've sent some emails off to the developers, and if we get a response, we'll talk about it in the next episode if we can.
Well, another way of listening to the books is to put in your Dropbox and bring in through Cappy Narrator. But the one thing that neither you nor myself could find was none of these apps where you were able to set bookmarks at a portion of the book should you want to bookmark it like you can in the Bard app. So that's something, if any listeners know how to set a bookmark, Ed, why don't you tell them how to call us in and maybe explain to us how to do that?
Yeah, if you can, please give us a call at 732-666-8641 and let us know if you have a solution for Carla. We try and figure it out, but it's, we don't always have the time. We don't always have all the resources to do that. And sometimes our listeners know better than we do. And, or you can email us in at iaccessvo@gmail.com and, give us a solution and share it.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because, an app that's been on the forefront here a lot, that's getting a lot of buzz is it BeSpectacle? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, that is correct. And, this is something that, I've heard about, and I really didn't look into it much, but, we had gotten another email from Christopher Venter, who's actually from Cape Town, South Africa, which is a beautiful city that I've been fortunate enough to visit, earlier in my life. And so I went in to look at his site because he has a blog called it's blindscooterguy.wordpress.com, and I went into that and looked at it, and all of a sudden there was a blog he had recently done on BeSpectacle, and so I read that, I downloaded the app, and I was very impressed, Brian. It was very accessible. It was very, very easy setup. And I like the format. I like the way it works. I like the fact you could take multiple images when you ask your question to find out what something is. And the response rate is awesome. I mean, people are responding to you. Multiple people are responding to you within 20, 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah, now this is an app that's been talked about a lot on other podcasts. And I actually have played around with it myself. I used it to identify a frozen meal, and I was very happy with it. Yeah, this is not the first time an app like this has come out, but they kind of have the new variation where you get multiple responses, and then once you're happy with the results, you just click, no, I don't need any more results. Be My Eyes is a version of this with a live person. You're not getting a live person where they can see you, but they are responding. It's really a two-step process where you take a photo, then you ask a question, and within seconds, people seem to respond to you.
You know what I like best about this is I know Be My Eyes is a great service, but you're getting a volunteer anywhere in the world, and you could be calling, and you may not, somebody may not pick up.
Yeah.
I know people who have called because it's going to one person, whereas this is going to a sighted volunteer community. And there are multiple people who can look down at their phone, see pictures, see your question, and respond to it quickly. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I actually heard an interview with the developers of this app. Actually, I think one of them was from South Africa, and the other one from Germany.
Italy.
Italy, Germany, same thing.
There goes our German and Italian listener base now, Brian. Come on.
Hey, I'm a dumb American, man. If it's not in America, it's the same thing,
Now we just lost our UK listeners. Come on, Brian. That's funny. So, you know what? We had both of us did something that we hadn't done before, and that was, I guess, with the advent of the NFB convention this year. They actually put the KNFB reader on sale again, and I think you and I both scored the app for $64.99. So I finally took the plunge.
Hold on. I got it for $65.
Really?
Yeah, that's not fair. NFB, you owe me a penny.
I think if you look, it was $64.99, but who knows? A penny I'm not going to worry about. I'll give you the.
I'm not as financially stable as you. You know, a penny over here goes a lot further than a penny over there might go.
Okay, I only give you a penny for your thoughts, so you're going to have to get the other penny from NFB.
They can mail it to me. I'll probably have to send them a stamp, though.
There you go. So we both got the app going, Brian. So what do you think of it?
I was blown away with it. I kept saying to myself, I've got a scanner here. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to be out and about scanning things. I'll just ask people. I'm never shy about saying, hey, I'm a blind mofo. Can you help me out with this? And that reminds me, I'm going to grab that Twitter handle after the show. But, I was absolutely blown away at the speed of it, the accuracy. I know some people have issues taking photos. I'm holding the piece of paper in my hand and taking photos with one hand, and I've yet to have any issues getting great results.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised with it. One of the reasons I did not get the app earlier is that I was running that antiquated 4S, and there was no way I was gonna spend $100 on this app to try and have it sit on my 4S collecting dust. So once it went on sale, and I had the new SE, I put it on, and it is powerful, it's robust, and I gave a presentation last week at the Montefiore Medical Center, and unfortunately, we were supposed to have Wi-Fi, and there was no Wi-Fi hookup. So a lot of the stuff I wanted to demo, I could not. And the beauty about the KNFB Reader app is I don't need Wi-Fi. I don't need a connection outside of where I am. All of the processing is done on the iPhone itself. So I was able to do a great demonstration of it. It worked well, and put the piece of paper down, put the phone in the center of the paper, raise it 8 to 10 inches, double tap on the left-hand side, take the picture, and boom, it starts reading to you within a matter of 10, 15 seconds. It was awesome.
Now, I know you've been to Dillinger's with me over here in Astoria, best wings in New York City, Tuesday night, quarter wing nights. Well, I was in the week after I got the KNFB Reader, early July. I went to Dillinger's, and I said to the bartender, I said, I'm going to ask you for something I've never asked you for before. She said she's preparing herself for what I was going to say.
Let's get ready to call the cops on you.
Yeah. I said, I'm going to ask you for a menu. And she said, wait, what? I said, just give me a menu. And I scanned all 4 pages in the menu within 5 minutes. It was just raising it. And so I've now got the menu and read everything great. And I learned everything they have on the menu. And I've got it saved in my phone. It was great and very easy to save. So, you know what? Here was me saying, I'm never going to use it out in public. And sure enough, within days of having it, I was out using it in public, and it was so nice to be able to scan a menu and just really take my time reading the menu.
Well, I think what you also like about it is that even though you have your scanner set up at home and you're home most of the time, you get your mail. You don't have to take everything out, set your scanner up, go to the PC. You're just scanning stuff to see what's junk and what's important. And if it's really important, then you'll take the time to scan that document for maybe a more detailed scan if you need it.
Correction, though, it's all junk when it comes in the mail. Ed, August is coming up pretty quick, and you know what August means to me?
For you, it's fantasy football season's around the corner.
That's right. And because I'm not in enough leagues already, I thought, it might be great to put together a league of all blind people, because I know there are some blind people out there that might want to try fantasy football for the first time. The great thing is it's all free through Yahoo. And if we have enough listeners that are interested, if we get about 8 people or more, I'm going to go ahead and set up an iAccess VO League. So go ahead, email us in if you're interested. You could be anywhere in the world. If you're interested in playing fantasy football, let me know. Email us in at iaccessvo@gmail.com. Tweet us in, iAccessVO. Say, hey, I'd be interested in playing fantasy football. It's 100% accessible through the Yahoo Fantasy app, which we'll be talking about probably a little later in August. And, like I said, we might not have enough people. We'll give it a try. And if there's enough interest, I'll go ahead and set up a league, and we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, and I know you love that Yahoo the Yahoo group that puts that together, because I do know that if for any reason something does break in accessibility, they're quick to respond and quick to fix.
Yeah, they just came out with their 8.0 update, and there were some accessibility issues. I emailed the team, and within minutes they emailed me back, and they were pretty annoyed that there were some accessibility bugs. They do a very thorough job, and I've been very impressed. I wish all companies were as responsive and as quick to fix, but I'm pretty sure within the next week or so, those issues within the app will be fixed.
Well, good. Let's hope you get your league there going, and you get a bunch of people joining in, and we'll keep it going.
Yeah. And Ed, can you believe it? 21 up, 21 down.
Unbelievable. It's going by so fast. I mean, it'll be a year in October. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And, we've had a lot of great guests. And, I like to think we're providing a service, maybe a couple of laughs. And, hopefully, we're learning a few things along the way as well.
Yeah, and I do want to thank our listeners, because we've had I know the last episode we put a request out for to give us some reviews in the iTunes store, and we've gotten some nice 5-star reviews, and it's great that people are appreciating what we're doing.
Yeah. Go ahead and listen to the last episode. If you like what you're hearing here, you'll hear how to leave us a review and rating in the iTunes store, and we appreciate that. But for now, we are out.
You have been listening to iAccess VO. If you'd like to contact us with ideas and suggestions for future podcasts, please email us at iaccessvo@gmail.com or visit our website at www.accessquest.org.